This video is sponsored by Securico. Lance is definitely one of the oddballs in Brawlhalla. It has somehow become Brawlhalla's most hated weapon, while still being the only weapon in Brawlhalla to have never made it to top tier. I believe it's still quite a popular weapon today as a result of lower elo players inflating the weapon's play rate, but the higher skill level you go, the less you will see of this weapon. This video is going to go over everything, alright? It's going to go over, what the weapon is, how it's played, why people hate it, all those controversies and stuff. The balance of the weapon, and what I think of the weapon itself. Lance is a heavy weapon. In fact, it seems to be the only heavy weapon, other than maybe Greatsword, that is somewhat bogged down by its heaviness. I mean, have you seen Axe, Hammer? These two heavy weapons have been ruling the meta recently. Axe is incredibly fast. I mean, it's basically a light weapon at this point with bonus damage and, free kills, because every move is a kill move. Then you have Hammer, which has one of the most disgusting recoveries in the game, combined with a million true combos. You also have extremely strong aerials that do insane amounts of damage. I mean, is it even fair? Well, no, it's not. I will confidently say that at this point in time, Axe and Hammer are just overtuned, alright? They're just too strong. Then you have Cannon, which honestly I'm not even sure anymore. I think I just suck against Cannon because it rules me all the time, but I always catch someone talking about how bad it is, so yeah, I don't know anymore. I do consider it a heavy weapon because, the word heavy in Brawlhalla, doesn't really have that much of a meaning. Basically, if it does a lot of damage per hit, it's probably a heavy weapon. Then you have Greatsword, which is clearly supposed to be a heavy weapon. And when I play it, it sure does feel like it until, I see other people play it, and it's the fastest weapon in the game. Then this brings us to Lance, where every move has some decent recovery time to it. Now the great thing about Lance is that its strengths and weaknesses are very well defined. Its strength is its overwhelming priority on a lateral plane, while its weakness is its lack of verticality. There's no move on Lance that hits directly below it. It has very limited options against aerial opponents other, than there, and you kind of have to play on the ground and catch people there or somehow get on the same Y plane as the opponent if you want to hit them. Problem with this design is that new players really suck at dodging. And you might say, well, if new players are bad at dodging, wouldn't a string heavy weapon like Katars or Scythe, that can loop people forever be more annoying? Well, yeah, they're probably annoying, but the thing is, it takes a lot more effort for those weapons to roll a newbie than it is for Lance. I mean, think about it. Lance's biggest strength is its priority, right? And the easiest and strongest way to utilize this priority is to just Sair, and anyone can Sair, over and over and over again. I mean, some of these Lance players don't even know combos on Lance. Additionally, players who are doing well and are destroying other players will not have as much of an incentive to improve as someone who isn't doing well. So when people are spamming aerials on Lance, they don't feel the need to improve because they're winning, right? And therefore you'll run into them over and over until they finally lose. Unfortunately, some people who lose to spamming Lance will defect and then themselves become spamming Lance players. And, this is the same case for Sig spammers and why we'll never run out of them. Sigs look cool to new players, so they just use them and then they find out it works. And since it works, they'll keep using them, which will, infect other players to spam. It's like an infinite cycle. The reason why I don't classify Lance as the easiest weapon to play in Brawlhalla is because it is not always effective at every skill level. Against newer players, Lance is definitely one of the more effective options. And just to clarify, effectiveness is defined by how much you get compared to how much you put in. So in this case, you put in minimal effort and you still destroy people, so for lower elo, Lance is a super effective weapon. But once they've seen through your gimmicks, the game gets so much harder because the weakness of Lance becomes more and more apparent, while other players play around Lance's strengths much better. They dodge better, they'll, space out your aerials better with improved movement, and they'll start taking advantage of your weaknesses. They'll attack from below or constantly hover and engage from above. They'll wait out your predictable aerials and space them out or jump over them, which requires the Lance player, in turn, to play more controlled, play, smarter. You're no longer allowed to just use aerials whenever you want because it becomes a lot more predictable and a lot easier to punish. you will actually need to perfect the inputs of the few combos you actually have, and jump reading or punishing bad landings become less like options and more like requirements. At the pro level, you'll realize that the amount of Lance players is very little. Is very, very little. I do not follow the pro scene outside of NA very much, so I'm pretty much only aware of avid Lance players in NA. Now, there have been a few players who have whipped out a Lance pick every once in a while, but I can confidently say that there is no top player who is actually a Lance main in NA except for Kosalix. He is extremely dedicated to the weapon, and he's been constantly trying to make it work for literally years now. And to this day, he's still not been given a damn break, since some of Brawl's strongest weapons, especially now, have particular advantages over Lance, like Axe. A weapon that can pretty much engage, from anywhere, and it's got an incredible ability to just hover over you, and, playing that constantly into Lance makes it excruciatingly difficult as long as they know what they're doing. Alright, I'm kind of hungry. Let me get some snacks real quick. Alright, so today my only food is in this box. It's actually from Sakurako. It's basically it's a monthly Japanese snack subscription box full of 19 traditional, authentic, and artisan snacks, and also one kitchenware delivered straight from Japan to your door. Alright, they personally curate and provide authentic Japanese sweets, snacks, tea, stuff like that from local makers in Japan every month, and they send it to their subscribers. Oh my god, I can't open this box. Basically, what these guys are trying to do is they want everyone to be able to experience Japanese traditional tea time and taste the delightful, traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks. I would really love to try and support these local snack makers if I was able to try them, but unfortunately, I'm a failure. Oh, I nearly just killed myself. I was using a scissor and it nearly went just like, and I would have died. Ta-da! This is Sakurako. Just look how pretty this box is. Like, come on. So this is awesome. It tells you allergy information. That's awesome because, I'm allergic to pretty much every nut ever in the world that's not like tree nuts. So, this is perfect. Now, just in case you don't know like what the snacks are in this box and you have no idea what they are, there's this booklet here, and basically it explains every single snack included in the box, and there's also informative Japanese culture that you can learn from here. So here you got all the snacks, right? And it tells you allergen information, vegetarian friendly, a description, the name, and there's also just straight up like it's a documentary in a book. Okay, so I'm looking for something sweet because I just had I had something really salty. I was like eating raw onions, and I kind of want something sweet to balance it out. I'm gonna try out this Sakura jelly here. Ah! Another thing I gotta cut open. Okay, so we're pouring it. Oh shoot! Bon appetit. There's an actual flower in here, dude. This is a flower. That's weird. I don't understand how a flower tastes good. But it does. Am I actually supposed to eat the flower? Down the hatch. That is the juiciest flower I've ever had. Now this elegantly packed thing here is a Sakura de Croix. It's soft. I really love soft and chewy stuff actually, so I really dig this. This is actually in hiragana, and I can read it. It says something ato roku. I give up. It comes with a glass. Look how, dude. Oh my god. I just feel so fancy right now. Now, according to this, it says, Hananami is an unmissable event in Japan. Sharing a drink with friends old and new under the cherry blossoms is a time-honored tradition. So obviously, I'm gonna fill this up with jelly. All right, now we're gonna pour some of this boiling hot. Wait, no, does the tea go first? Dude, I literally have never made tea before, please. Okay, I believe I may have just completely screwed up the tea. So yes, this month's theme is Sakura Afternoon Tea, so you can enjoy your very own Hanami picnic at your own home. So make sure if you're interested, use code Shwerpy to get $5 off for your first Sakurako order and have your very own authentic Japanese snacks. So yes, thank you so much to Sakurako for sponsoring this video. Oh! Lance isn't hated just by new players, it's hated by pretty much everyone, because a lot of people find the very concept of a priority heavy weapon to be annoying. Now this brings up a very weird situation then, right? Because this connects directly with Lance's balance. The weapon isn't top tier, it's never been. And if it's too hard to discuss and argue about the actual strengths of the weapon, then why don't we just look at the statistics of the weapon? How about that? In tournaments, people play to win. Alright? There's money on the line. So obviously not everyone is like this. I'm not like this either. But there are people out there that will do whatever it takes to make that win even just a little bit easier. And this includes, of course, playing the best weapons, playing the best characters, playing safe and not risky. In the NA scene, I do not recall a single major in which there were 2 Lance Legends in top 8, much less top 4, except, you know, Winter Champions 2020, where that happened. And it's been 2 years now. If there was another major in NA where this did occur in more recent times, then I guess I missed it. But honestly, I highly doubt it, because Costlix can't place. And to add on to that, Stingray, who was the other player who had Lance in that major with Costlix, he doesn't even main Lance. He was playing Orion mainly for the spear. So even in these few cases, you have non-Lance mains representing the damn weapon. Lance simply has too big a weakness to be played at this level, or no one has been able to make the weapon work for years when it comes to the best players in the world. So, you know, yeah, it's either that the weapon sucks, or everyone playing Lance is just, they haven't been able to figure it out. And since it's been this long, it's probably safe to assume the weapon is not that good in comparison to the best weapons, that is. But of course, if we do talk about the balance of the weapon itself, I think it's in a good spot, and I believe most people think it's in a relatively good spot. And if anything is to be done, we should be buffing Lance among other weapons to the level of, you know, like Axe and Hammer, because buffs just feel better to players than nerfs. It's worse for developers to constantly nerf everything, because it just feels really bad to players when they get their stuff nerfed. But if you just buff everything and slowly get them all to the same level, it feels a lot better to the player base. And also, people don't have to constantly change how they play a weapon over and over, so they can actually get used to the changes. But if Axe and Hammer are just way too big in terms of, you know, being a problem, which they are, then it is the best decision is probably to bring them down with nerfs. I don't really want to talk about Lance balance all that much though, because really, no matter how much is said about the weapon, there will always be delusional people arguing that Lance is broken somewhere in the comments or whatever. Then they'll claim they're diamond so that, you know, they're credible, which if they are diamond, then surely they'd, I don't know, crutch their way up there with some kind of cheesy strategy or something, because I just refuse to believe someone has reached that elo and still can't realize the difficulty of playing Lance against a competent player. In addition to these guys crying about how broken the weapon is, some people just think it's plain easy. And like I said, at the lower level, Lance does not require that much effort to do well. There are players who just spam aerials and get elo from it, and they're not improving as players. I mean, they're not really good players either by doing that, but this is why elo is not that accurate when determining a skill. Like, elo can be gained just by playing the same guy or the same people over and over, right? It doesn't really test your ability against all kinds of characters, all kinds of matchups. And of course, if you're just doing a cheesy strat that works on a few people, it might not work on others. But elo can't really determine that. It's like a confounding variable. So that's why there are a lot of people who will say that elo is, you know, not that accurate and that it doesn't matter. I still think it does matter. It gives a good idea of where you're at, but it's not entirely accurate. However, of course, with Lance, mostly I think this is just gold and below, where you can kind of just spam stuff and make it work. Maybe even in gold you have to start, you know, of course you gotta learn some combos as well. But, you know, once you get to plat, you're gonna have to start building up your movement, learning combos and such. And as you bridge to diamond and farther up, you need to play neutral. It's gonna become a lot more important to play neutral, and it's gonna be harder to do as well. You're gonna have to learn how to do your reads. You're gonna have to learn how to pressure and how to, you know, land your sidelights, because sidelight is pretty punishable, I'd say, if you whiff a sidelight. But even though, you know, I say all this, I still think it's very annoying when people use the fact that Lance is an easy weapon to play at lower elo as an excuse just to flame the Lance players, or as an excuse to lose, right? Lance players literally just never win. If they win the match, it's because they got carried. If they lose, then they suck for losing on an easy weapon. It's horrible. People will actually just hop on anything just to make you feel bad for playing the weapon, even if they're actually just dissing themselves. Like, I mean, you do realize that if you say someone sucks after they just beat you, it implies that you're worse than them, right? I mean, you just lost. Stop focusing on the enemy, focus on yourself, and maybe you'll actually improve. Now, no one cares if you complain, okay? I mean, yes, people care if you complain, but you're allowed to, all right? Everyone can complain. It's a way of releasing anger and frustration, and sometimes it can even warrant change if, that was your purpose for complaining in the first place. But if you're straight up attacking other people just because you suck at a 2D fighting game and have too big of an ego to suck it up and realize it's your fault, then have fun sucking ass, dude. I play one of the worst characters in the game. I main Ada. She has stupidly lopsided stats. Her weapons are decent, but her signatures range from pretty good to just about unusable. But I still play her because she's fun. Do I get angry when I play against people who are playing, better or easier characters? Yeah, sure I do, alright? It hurts to see people achieve more with less effort, I get it, but it's my choice, right? I chose to play Ada. No one's forcing me to. I mean, I could easily just pick Taros. It's not like, he's hidden behind some kind of paywall. No, I pretty much own every character that's not Zul. So, yeah, I could have played Taros, but it's not my style. It's not fun. So, I will play Ada, and I will win with Ada, alright? And the harder it is to get the win, the more gratifying it is when you actually get it anyways. So just bite the bullet and just put in the work, alright? So if you're just playing a character that you want to play, but you keep getting disappointed that people are beating you, then you're really just going to have to suck it up or just play someone better, okay? Like, just, it's your choice. Jesus Christ. I actually have fought so few Lance players nowadays that I honestly do find the matchup pretty fun. It's definitely a breath of fresh air from, stupid backdash bow, or, the light weapon of axe, or floaty hammer spam, the 100th Mordex I've got to play against this week. Lance is definitely just more fun for me to play against, especially since my weapons do let me have a decent time against them. I think blasters are a pretty nice matchup towards Lance. It really helps me work on my spacing and shutting down the priority god weapon. Blasters also has that down air, of course, that lets me fight it from above, which is definitely a plus against a top weak weapon. When it comes to playing Lance, though, I still think it's pretty fun as well. I played it in Winter Champs. If you haven't seen the video, you should definitely check out the set where I played against a backdash Azoth who was abusing his insane signatures. I chose Lord Vrax in that set after game 1 because, 1, I really like blasters, and 2, I knew that Lance's priority was going to let me essentially brute force his backdashy playstyle just by, running straight through. And I thought it was a very fun set, honestly. Despite the amount of abuse I took from that Azoth, I think that set was still pretty fun. And, sometimes it's just fun to play something more simple, or even just try something different. And I think at the end of the day, no matter how much you hate Lance, I would hope that at least everyone respects each other, right? I'd hope, but, that's not gonna happen.